act really cool. Just act cool. I've got two persons with disabilities. Persons with disabilities and a blind guy.
Excuse me, it's visually impaired.
Visually impaired gentleman.
Hey, is that Scotty? What's up, buddy?
Who the hell's Matt? I'm Matt Kwong.
You're gonna be with Becky.
Hey, Becky's mine. Excuse me. You got it bad, huh? Blue balls. I got something for you.
What is this?
Answer to your prayers.
Go as you are.
Biceps.
What if I told you there was a place for guys like us to get seriously laid?
Your friend Mo said he was down, right?
Yeah, no, he's down.
No way.
What we're proposing is a trip away from parents.
God damn it, Mom.
From the clinics.
I could use a field trip.
It's like a road trip.
Delete the itinerary, leave no trace.
Found us a driver. His name was Sam.
Make sure he has a valid passport. We don't want any snafus at the border.
What's a snafu? I guess Sam's a woman?
I'm Mo. Well, she's friendly.
That's my parents.
Toss it out the window. They can track us.
Did he just throw his phone out?
Mo, toss it. They can track us. Do it.
What was that?
It's my SIM card. I threw out my SIM card.
Fuck, that's a better idea.
What's going on here? I want all the cards on the table right now, or we won't go anywhere.
Or we're just virgins.
Spent a lot of time feeling like I was on the outside. Ever since we all started hanging out, it feels like I'm included.
Do you have any idea how irresponsible you've been?
Mom, I want a hooker. It's not the easiest conversation to have.
Our sight may have faltered, our legs given out, but our boners stand tall and do us proud.
Our parents showed up at the motel.
All right.
We had to bolt. Easy break.
Mo, stop! What are you, blind?
Hello and welcome to another edition of The Living Room, brought to you by Curzon Home Cinema. If you're watching this live, you can join the conversation in the comments on YouTube and Facebook or Twitter with the handle @Curzon Cinemas. And please use the hashtag Curzon Living Room. Today to talk about their film Come As You Are is director Richard Wong, actor-producer Grant Rosenmeyer and Asta Philpot, upon whom the story is based. Hello all three of you.
Hi.
Hello.
Hello.
Right, Richard, let's start with you first of all. With that incredibly ornate backdrop, where are you at the moment?
Oh, I'm in an amazing house in Berkeley called the Temple of Wings. It's historical, and yeah, I just happen to be working here today. It's office for the day.
So you're back filming?
Yeah, we're back filming amidst COVID, and we are at least 50% slower than we usually are.
And what about you, Grant? Where are you at the moment?
I am at my apartment in LA.
Okay, and Asta?
This is my kitchen.
It's a very nice
do my
kitchen.
dishes. That's my board. I write my groceries on that. Would you like to meet my biggest fan?
I've made you feel so bad.
That's my biggest fan.
Okay, we're starting
full of
cheesy and it goes
guys.
down from there. And Asta, where are you?
I'm in Yorkshire, England, in sunny Yorkshire.
which in itself is normally a contradiction in terms.
Yeah.
Actually, let's start with you, because the story actually begins with you. The journey in terms of the visual aspects of your life began with a BBC documentary in, I believe, 2007. Can you talk about that and how you've journeyed from there to this film today?
Yeah, so I originally started out the documentary because a friend of mine died. He had muscular dystrophy, and he died wanting a sexual experience and intimacy with another woman. So I made it my mission from the documentary. Me and my parents and my family found this amazing place in Spain, brothel called The Eclipse, and it all went from there. And the BBC documentary got made, and it was incredible. And there was an incredible twist to that story as well. And it's funny because the DOP on the documentary said, this would make a great feature film. And here we are 14 years later, we've got, you know, Come As You Are, and I'm proud. I'm really proud to not only get the message out there, but to hopefully help other people in my position.
So Grant and Richard, can you talk about, because again, the journey on this film alone has also been a long one. Can you talk about how it developed over time? Perhaps Grant.
Yeah, so I first read the script back in 2013 as it was being written by Eric Lindhorst. I happened to be in a writer's workshop with him, and he had just been hired to pen the adaptation. And he tapped me on the shoulder one day, and it was my first time even auditing this workshop. And he said, "Hey, you're new here, right? Would you be open to reading a role next week?" I said, "Sure." And the next week he brought in the first 10 pages of Come As You Are, which are virtually the same. And I played Scotty, and it was like lightning in a bottle. It was really magic. And from that moment, I was obsessed with this character, with this film, with the tone of it. It just felt like the quintessential American indie, the kind of things that I love, the kind of movies that I grew up loving and wanted to make. And my aspiration for many years was just to be in it. Back over to me. It just kind of took off that way. Over the course of about 3 months as it was being written, I read the role of Scotty, and I stayed on it. I stayed on Eric, and every 6 months or so I'd check in and I'd say, "What's going on with this movie? What's going on with this movie? What's going on with this movie?" And it kept coming together and falling apart, and coming together and falling apart, to the point where it fell apart completely, and the rights had reverted back to the original Belgian filmmakers.
Which was 2011, wasn't it? The film, I think, the original Belgian film.
The original Belgian film was 2011, and it just, for whatever reason, it was very successful, and it just took. Nobody thought there was a market for it in English. I don't know if it's the puritanical views, or maybe there just weren't any stars that could, with disabilities who we got financed. I have whatever it was, it just took forever. And I said, this is an opportunity, and I had to seize it. Otherwise it was just going to die. And the script was too beautiful. Eric was too good a friend. And the role, I loved the role so much, and I felt like my DNA was in it, just because I had been reading it for 3 months straight. So that kind of began a baptism by fire of producing my first movie and trying to get it together. And Rich was just the perfect guy for the job. So that's how.
So Richard, can you talk about when you came on board and what it was that grabbed you about the script?
Yeah, I mean, to be perfectly honest, Grant and I, when Grant was 11 years old, it's always a fun way to start a story. But when Grant was 11 years old and I was 4 or 5, we worked on a TV show together called Oliver Bean, and Grant played Oliver Bean, and I was a DIT, which was, the early days of high def. And so we kind of known each other for a very long time, but of course he went off, he grew up, and then, I went off and did what I did.
Puberty.
Yeah, and then he ended up doing a movie with one of my closest friends, who had a great experience. They had a great experience together. So the truth of the matter is, when Grant had secured, essentially made a deal for the rights of the movie, and Grant, by the way, had a very, very short amount of time with those rights. We had a very short time to make that movie. He had actually inquired with my friend if he was interested or available, and my friend was not available. But I happened to have dinner with that friend like a couple nights later, and he was telling me, like, "Oh yeah, Grant, remember Grant?" I was like, "Yeah, of course I know Grant." He's like, "Oh, Grant, 3 guys with disabilities, road trip, brothel, loser virginity. What do you like?" And I'm like, "Dude, it's right up my alley." So it was one of those things. I was like, "Do you mind And he's like, "Oh man, like that's actually a perfect fit. It could be cool." So that night he sent Grant my first film, and he sent me the script. I read it immediately. I imagine Grant watched my film, and then we set up a call for the very next day. And then that day I was driving back from LA to San Francisco. I live in San Francisco, right? I work in LA all the time, so I'm driving back and forth all the time. That drive is 5.5 hours, and we called each other about half an hour in, and we talked quite literally, all the way back to San Francisco, and then I parked, and then we talked for another hour. And honestly, therein lied the movie. We talked about everything under the sun. And, honestly, when I think about it today, it's like, that was the movie right there.
So Grant's talked a little bit about the length of time it took to develop the whole project and the various avenues you could have gone down with it. I know some people will be aware that there's been chatter over the course of the last week leading up to the film's release regarding the casting of the 3 central roles. And I was just wondering, Richard and Asta, both of you, if you could talk a little bit about that in terms of the environment, when the film was made, where we're at now.
You want to go first, Asta, or me?
You go first and then I'll follow.
Okay. Yeah, we can go into all kinds of things about how much time we had to make the movie, find the money and do it. All that's honestly true and things like that. But personally, I think the discussion is very, very positive. Like, I don't think there's I think all of it truly is positive. If people make their voices heard using the movie as an example, and their voices are heard, and it changes the way things are for the future, super positive. If people watch the film and and I truly believe that our message in the film is positive, despite anything any criticism we get. I think if you watch the film, you'd understand the heart, but most importantly, the intention to represent and not misrepresent. These are things that were all very important to us, that we all talked about. First conversation on every meeting I've ever had on the movie, with everybody, down to PAs, down to everything. I think if people watch the movie, I think they'll get a positive message out of it, and it'll also be positive. So to me, it's kind of a win-win. I think the conversation is really good. I will say that if somebody, because it's a little hard to express the truth into how hard it was to get this movie made, and the kind of credit that Grant should get on just how difficult it was to get a story like this in that time to be marketable. It's not backed by some Hollywood studio, and this is a completely independent film. And to try to make people understand that, there's potentially, if independent films essentially venture capital, and it's just like, to get someone to believe in a movie like this, it's very difficult to do. And thank God we found them, but it was very, very, very hard. And Grant worked insanely hard to dictate that name. But that said, like today, and I think this is 2 years later, today, I honestly think it'd be a different story. And honestly, that's progress.
Yeah, I totally agree. And I'm a disabled actor myself. So first of all, I completely get it. But let me just tell you where I'm at with this project. As far as I'm concerned, this project needed to be made. And like Richard said, Grant deserves all the credit to him to actually get this thing made. But the way I see it is now that it's given not only me a platform, but other people with disabilities an incredible platform to get out there and be actors and be who they are. And I really see it as a game changer, especially since all the press has happened and all the Twitter discussion. I've had some really interesting discussions with production companies, and I've had approaches of people possibly wanting me to host talk shows over here, and I'm bringing a book out at the end of the year. So it's like, if we see, the way I see it, Come As You Are is a stage, and it's a stage for people to get upon and do what they need to do, because it's a game changer. Richard is incredibly talented. He's a genius in my eyes. I watched the film again yesterday and with my mum and dad, and we've all been on this journey for 14 years. And wow, if this is like the last Come As You Are that's made, because there's like 3 now, Hasta La Vista, Adios Amigos, and Come As You Are. This is the icing on the cake. This is what the world needed. So I think, I'm on the side of people with disabilities. I can't wipe my own ass either. So instead of fighting, we need to come together and work together. And boy, I'm on it. I am on it.
And you were saying that you're an actor, you appear in this film, and there are characters, actors with disabilities throughout the whole film, Richard.
Yeah, we have 15 actors. Sorry, yeah, 15
Yes.
actors.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and yes, we have 15 actors, and you know, we went out of our, we really did truly go out of our way to be sure that there was representation, and we even changed the character, and made the character with disabilities. I think, you know, so yeah, and you know, again, we were left with, you know, honestly, especially independent film, talk about it, you're left with a decision to make. Because you know, this isn't a mandated film. We don't have government mandated films, like, you know. We were left with a decision like, well, here is our particular path at this particular moment. Do we take it or not take it? So we had a choice to make, knowing that of course there would be some criticism, but again, knowing that the criticism, even in of itself, is positive, we decided to go ahead. We you know, we have to decide whether is the world a better place with or without the movie, and we think it's better with the movie.
I've got a question here from Hannah, who's from Brighton, and this is for Grant and Richard. First of all, it's about the casting of Gabourey and Jane Ann, and then follow up to that for you, Grant, about acting opposite Gabourey. Is there any possibility that you two could do your own show together, because you're brilliant as a double act?
I would kill for that opportunity. Sorry, what was the particular question about? Just about working with them or getting them, or
getting them on board with the film?
We had an amazing agent who was pretty much the only agent who would answer my phone calls. Was a woman named Louise Spinner at UTA, and she happened to rep these actors, these incredible actors who are in this movie. And we, over the years, that many big stars have been attached to the role of Sam. But from our very first conversation with, you know, between Richard and I, we loved Gabourey. So here's she's an Academy Award nominated actress. We can't get her, so let's just move on to the next person on the list. And so we kind of went down the list, and we're hearing no from people. And then I noticed that she was also one of Louise's clients. And I just asked Louise, I was like, I know she's an Academy Award nominee. I know she's on a bunch of shows and she's way too successful, but Shot in the Dark, would she even read it? And instead of laughing me off the phone, Louise said, could ask. And then she read it. And I remember we had the three leads, and then we sent it to her over Christmas break 2017, and first week of January 2018, I got an email that says, Gabourey loves it, let's talk. And I was like, oh my God, you know, I couldn't believe it. And she didn't even want to talk to us. She was just like, no, Gabby loves it, she's in. Just let us know when there's money and it's real, basically. And we met her, we had a table read in February, and she came, and it was immediately clear that she was going to be brilliant in this role. And she showed up she started shooting second week of the production, and immediately it was just like a tornado of Sidibe. Hurricane Sidibe came to town and tore it up. She was amazing, and she's just awesome. We still talk. She has a cat, and I have a cat, so we bond over our cats about the cat question.
Hayden and Ravi are both really, really great in the film. But the way that you spark off Gabourey and Jane Ann, I was just wondering.
It's impossible not to. By the way, Janine too. It's impossible not to spark off. No, it's fine. You're British. No.
I think I mispronounced it anyway, no matter who I
am. But no, both of them are they're like wildfire. All you got to do is get near them, and you catch flame. You catch a blaze.
Was there much improvisation throughout, Richard, or did you stick really closely with the script?
There was quite a lot of improvisation. I think it would be a thing where I think we would always do a take that stuck to the script, and then I think we would have time and we would have the openness to try stuff and see where it went, and then have some choices in the edit. Yeah, we had quite a lot of choices in the edit. I'll say that much. But no, I think in terms of improvisation, I think Janine specifically is a character that probably doesn't stick out on page quite as much as what she brings to that role, and I think it's Janine's credit that she could read something like that character. Again, Janine's another kind of fun shot in the dark that Grant and I was like, what's like, still she's gonna say no, but why not? And then we'd send it, and to Janine's credit, she probably read it and just understood what she could do with it, and that's not even necessarily me and Grant knowing what she could do with it. And she just came in and added such a different dimension and such an amazing realness to that character that honestly I think is all Janine.
That verbal diarrhea was absolutely. Did she talk to you about that? I mean, it just from the time Rich yelled action to the time he yelled cut, she would just talk, and I couldn't get a word in edgewise. And so in that one scene where I'm like, "For once, please don't talk, just listen." That's not in the script. That was me, just like Janine. For once, don't talk, just listen. I remember we'd yell cut, and it'd be like, "Great, do it again." She'd be like, "What did I say?"
Yeah. I mean, it was the thing that we talked about. We talked about it a little bit on the first day that she was there. She's just like, I'm gonna start. Yeah. We talked about the character on the first conversation I ever had with Janine. We talked about the character in that way, and how Scotty's derived from that character. So she had a very clear idea of who she thinks Scotty would come from.
And Asta, I gather that you were pretty much on set the whole time. Is that correct? And what was that experience like?
Virtually. I was on set virtually because I had things cooking over here. So me and Grant basically spent almost 2 months on the phone together, talking, and he'd consult with me about physical aspects of the role, and because he had arthrogryposis like me, so I really made sure that he got the hand movements right and the physicalities right. So yeah, he did the whole cast did an incredible job. Ravi and Hayden, and wow, those incredible.
And you, I gather, were at the premiere at South by Southwest?
Yeah, we went.
What was that like?
Yeah, we flew out to the premiere in Austin. It was incredible. Me and my parents and my auntie and uncle flew in as well from California, and we were just blown away, completely blown away. Because you have certain expectations of what the film might be like, but it was just completely, to me and to my family, the movie's life-changing. And we always say, we have discussions that we believe it's the antidote to people going through whatever they're going through at the moment, because when you watch this thing, it completely changes your consciousness. It has that magic touch.
We are going to have to wrap up shortly. I've just got a couple more questions. Richard, one of the things I wanted to ask you about, and you, Grant as well, that I read a really early review of the film, and it made a note of this, and I found it fascinating when I finally saw the film, is the fact that in terms of the casting, it's incredibly diverse. And I found that really amazing in terms of the story being told because of the universality of it, of something that affects everyone. Could you talk a little bit about that, please?
For me, it's super important. Diverse casting is very important to me. I think all my films reflect that. And obviously, I grew up in San Francisco. I grew up in a very diverse way. So to me, it's just kind of reflective of the way I see the world in general. And I would say that there's probably earlier iterations of this film where every character was white, and that was one of the first things Grant and I talked about. Grant brought it up first. It's like, yeah, what do you think? Asian, it was something that from the very beginning, from that very first conversation on that phone call back to San Francisco, that was brought up right away. That the diversity part of it was really, really important. And of course, me being a minority also, that's always important to me. So it was a welcome thing to hear from Grant.
And also, Grant, the genre itself, the road movie, you've got what I like about the film, you've got the frat boy element of the kind of Eurotrip kind of road movie, but you've also got this incredible emotional undercurrent. And I think that's, and Asta probably feels this the same way, that's what's so amazing about this. This is not a film about people going just to have sex. It's actually about intimacy, ultimately.
Yeah, it's about intimacy and it's about connection and it's about, you know, like The Wizard of Oz or any of those, it's not really about what happens at the end, it's about what happens along the way. And with this particular film, I thought it really just goes back to the love affair I had with the script. Was on its face, it's a raunchy sex comedy, you know, like Wedding Crashers or like the Judd Apatow movies that formed my adolescence, for better or worse. And then it kind of, the way Eric was able to Trojan horse in so much authentic emotion that didn't feel ham-fisted or shoehorned in. It was really born of the characters, and it was so the kind of movie that I would want to make. In fact, Asta talking about the premiere reminded me, I have a very a good friend who I went to film school with, and he walked out of the theater and he came up to me and he was like, I think that was the most Grant movie I've ever seen. And because he just knows me and he knows that's just complete, this movie, I couldn't think of a movie that was more perfectly suited to my sensibilities in terms of what I aspire to make and I hope to keep making.
And finally, Asta, I've got a question from Helen in London, who asks, have you considered a memoir about not just your own life, but your film experiences over the course of the last 15 years?
Yeah, the book's coming out for Christmas. Yeah, it's in high demand, so it's about time I get all this stuff down. Thank you, though. Yeah, it's definitely coming.
I should actually add at that point that Helen is not a plug for Asta. That just came out of the blue.
I was about to say, and Venmoing Helen right now.
Yeah, she's not paid. Thanks, though, Helen. Yeah.
Come As You Are is now available to watch on Curzon Home Cinema, and there will actually be more events and discussions around the film. So if you are interested in following this, go to the distributor's website, studiosohodistribution.com, to make sure that you keep up to date with all those events. You can also go to curzonhomecinema.com for details of upcoming living room events. Thanks to both Curzon and Studio Soho for organising this event, but most of all, thank you very much, Asta Philpot, Grant Rosenmeyer, and Richard Wong. Thank you, guys.
Thank you. Cheers.
Take care.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Hey.